Rolex.
Well, it's not very often I get to share the studio with a fellow Rolex ambassador.
Hello.
So it's nice to have you here, Roger.
Thank you very much.
Terrific.
My pleasure.
Congratulations today. Comfortable win.
Thank you. Yes, very happy. I expected it to be quite much more tougher, actually, because he just played well last week, and I've played him in the past, and I've seen him, hit some really good shots. So I expected it much more difficult, but of course I'm happy to be through this way too.
Well, before we talk about this year's championships, I don't know which one to congratulate you first, your marriage or winning the French championships.
It's two different things, right? Well, you can congratulate me for both. There's no order really, but
well, first
both
of all,
have been very
congratulations
special.
on your marriage. I think that's wonderful.
Yes, thank you.
The French championships. What was your feeling? Is it mainly a feeling of relief after winning it?
I don't want it to be a relief, because that would just say I finally showed everybody that I could win Paris, and I don't think this is the point, about winning in Paris. It's about proving it to myself first of all, and realizing an incredible dream for me that I've been chasing for the last few years. And so to come through in the end and to prove it, is phenomenal. And being on the highest of levels, was being one of those guys who have been able to win in all four majors, and winning 14, equaling Pete. It was so fitting, and I just I almost still can't believe I did it, because everything just came together. It seemed like it had to happen for me this year in Paris, and I fought like a lion, and I came through, so I'm very, very proud. It
seemed like you were under so much pressure. Every one of those 4 matches in the second week seemed like a final for you. I mean, especially after Rafa lost, and it must, everyone asking you the big question. How did it feel?
It felt good but hard, It was just super difficult handling the pressure, I remember going into the Monfils match, for instance. I think that was the 4th round.
Yeah.
I was so nervous before the match, and warming up, I felt terrible. I felt heavy. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep well. The night before already, everything started. I was asking myself questions, is my game good enough this year to beat Monfils at all, not even win the tournament alone. And so after I came through, I think that Monfils match, things kind of, the pressure kind of dropped from my shoulders at least a little bit. Then obviously it was still very difficult, to play the quarters and semis and so forth, but it was hard, going through this whole phase where Rafa wasn't around anymore, Djokovic wasn't around anymore, and I came into the quarterfinal stage where I think I had like a 33-1 win-loss record all over my opponents,
Right.
And it's good to know, but it's hard to deal with, but I've been there before so many times that I guess that's why I could cope with it, because otherwise I think that could be quite difficult.
Well, it's nice for our viewers to know that the great Roger Federer does get nervous as well. I
think it's important. Well, everybody's human,
Because it doesn't look like this when you're playing. You're out there.
No, I don't show much, that's true. But I do think it's very important for a player to get nervous at times. It just shows, first of all, that you care. Secondly, that you want to win, that there is something in it, prestige, points, whatever it is, and that's how I still feel today, even though I've been there so many times. And but I think before maybe Grand Slam semi-finals, Grand Slam final stages, everybody does get nervous, and you're supposed to, because it's such a big stage.
Absolutely. Now, you've won the French championships. You decided to take the week off on grass. In the past, you've won Halle before you've come and played Wimbledon. You feel comfortable coming to Wimbledon, having not played a tournament on grass?
Yes, I do. Borg did it 5 times himself, and it's possible, not preparing that well, because everybody has a bad preparation anyway for Wimbledon, because a good one would be already playing on grass for 2 months, but nobody's going to get that ever. So it's hard for everyone. Actually, I was able to win my 5th Wimbledon without also a preparation tournament. I won Halle last year, but didn't play the year before either. So that obviously gave me also some relief, knowing that I can win Wimbledon without having a preparation tournament. It definitely helps, if you do play well on grass just prior to Wimbledon. But I think at this stage of my career, I know that if I prepare well, I will play well, and then hopefully by getting past the first few rounds, I'll find my game. But so far, I've played actually well right off the bat, so I'm actually very happy where my game's at right now.
Well, you looked very solid against Lou in the first round, and of course Lopez in the second round today, and you're up against
Garcia Lopez, yeah. Sorry, there's another Lopez.
There's another Lopez as well. Up against Philip Kohlschreiber. He's a tough customer.
Yeah.
clearly the favorite you are. I mean, you go into these matches where everybody's after your scalp.
Yeah.
How does that feel? I mean, everyone knows Federer's got everything to lose, I've got nothing to lose. Puts you in a tough position.
Well, you could see it from that angle, but other people say that I have an advantage just because of my name and because of my history in tennis. But I see it more from the more difficult side, you know, whereas a guy's got nothing to lose, so he can just start maybe not playing his game, but believing, you know, he has a chance. Everybody has a chance, and in tennis, you start at zero and you don't know where you're going to end up, you know. And that's why I have big respect for Kohlschreiber. For those who don't know, he beat Djokovic in Paris just a couple of weeks ago, and he beat Roddick, I think, last year at the Australian Open. So he's had some big wins on big stages, and I've actually played him, I think, twice before on grass, and both times it was hard, you know. And the guy is very talented, and he's got the potential to upset the big names, and that's why I have to be very, very careful. Even though today he came through, I think, 8-6 in the fifth set,
yes.
Which is a bit of a surprise, but you know, all the guys can play today on the men's tour, and that's why I have to be very careful with Kohlschreiber.
Now, do you feel this year's grass at Wimbledon perhaps a little bit thicker, it seems a little softer, seems a little slower, ball staying a little bit lower on your slice, which works very well, but does the grass feel soft to you, a little softer than usual?
Not really. I was quite surprised hearing many people talking about it. I came to press before, and apparently so many players been talking about it. I guess it's also because they've been asked much the question, do you think it's slow? Well, actually it does feel slow, and then all of a sudden everything's slow, right? But I think the first couple of days have been very humid. Even today it's, you know, it's quite hot and humid. And then I think there's moist on the grass, then the balls get a little fluffy maybe. The ball doesn't travel through the air the way it usually does. Today already much quicker conditions, I felt, you know, and I think Wimbledon will always stay fast, you know, but the thing is that also we have many players today playing from the baseline, and when both are at the baseline you neutralize each other, and what happens is, like, well, it's hard to hit a winner from the baseline, you know, because you're so far away from each other. So if one guy would move in only, then it would be very different, because then everything would be much faster, you know, because you feel like you're stressed, you don't have the time to set up your shot, but because we're at the baseline, we give each other time all the time, and I think this is where our game is heading, a little bit unfortunately, because I'd love to see more serve and volley and more chip and charge and everything, but with the power and the technology, it just seems it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Now, you're very well positioned. Kohlschreiber obviously are the favorite. As you look past, perhaps we take you past into the second week.
Thank you.
And look at it.
That's
and
good.
Look at the second week. You know, you're clearly the #1 favorite going into this tournament. No question about it. You know what it is to win here. The toughest challenge is a man who has not won this tournament. He's perhaps reaching his prime. He's possibly the second challenger to Hugh here, since Rafa's not here. Do you feel that Murray is really a threat to your 6th Wimbledon championship?
Absolutely. I mean, I think there's quite a few players actually who are very dangerous, you know, and a few of them are in my section, like Djokovic, for instance, or Tsonga, or Verdasco. You name them. There's some very good players around, floating, and they're ready to take me down. But I definitely think Murray has a great chance. Just, you know, obviously being at home, having the crowd support. But I also think he's got a game that suits grass very well, because he does hit the slice very well. He has improved his serve a lot. Mentally, he's much stronger than he used to be. So I just think with all the success he's had, you know, in the last year and a half, I have the feeling he knows himself that he can do well, and he's been in a Grand Slam final before, the US Open, which is a very difficult tournament also to play well at. So I feel like he's definitely got also a very good chance of winning this tournament.
Final question to you. I know you're doing a lot of interviews and you're taking a lot of time to, very kind of you to do it with us. How does it feel when people say to you you're the greatest player of all time? Do you feel that you're the greatest player of all time in your own mind? Because Rocket said that, John McEnroe said that.
I don't know. Look, I mean, I feel like I'm the best player of the last 5 years, maybe, or maybe 10 years, you know, I don't know. I mean, I've been very dominant, and I think you definitely need records to back up, you know, your status of greatest ever. I feel like we might never know who is the greatest of all time, just because of the history of tennis. It doesn't really show, because it's been changed maybe too much in the last 50 years or so, or 100 years, that it's hard, you know. Today maybe Grand Slams have much a bigger importance than they used to have, and just to base it down on Grand Slams is in one way you can see it, but also maybe domination, being #1 in the world, how many titles have you won, who were your rivals. You know, maybe now that we play on all such different surfaces, maybe does that make it more difficult? Is it more competitive than ever today, or have there been better plays in the past? it's all up to debate. But one thing for me, I just think it's nice to be part of such an elite group. But I also think one thing is what we should do is to judge my career once it's over, and not while I'm still playing. Even though it's obviously nice that they talk about me this nice and this much.
Well, Roger, most important of all, you bring so much grace to the game.
Thank you.
And to that, all tennis fans, sports fans worldwide are grateful to you for that.
Appreciate
it's
it.
wonderful
Thanks
to have
very much,
you.
Vijay.
All the very best.
Thank you.
6 Wimbledon. Look
Hope so.
forward to it.
Thanks very much, guys.